Welcome to Speak Up and Stay Alive RadiOh with author, speaker, and your host, Pat Rouleau.
Serving you a generous helping of everything you need to know to help you and your loved ones stay safe during any doctor or hospital visit.
The program is not intended to replace medical advice from a licensed professional, but rather to encourage you to become a well-informed participant in your health and well-being. And now, your host, Pat Rouleau.
Hello, I'm Pat Rouleau. Welcome to our time together. I'm always so grateful that you join me each week and that you care enough to try to improve your health through knowledge about the pitfalls within the healthcare system. And this program is the voice for patient safety. So thank you for being here with me. Before we get rolling today, I want to again remind you of our upcoming charity golf outing being held August the 28th at Wicked Woods Golf Course in Newbury, Ohio. It's on behalf of my youth internet radio station called Those Radio Kids, and the proceeds fund the Support Project, where we make and send one-of-a-kind handmade pillowcases to homeless veteran shelters, women and children's shelters, and soon, cage comforters to animal rescue shelters. So if you golf, or if you know of a golfer, send them to the website thoseradiokids.com, thoseradiokids.com, and sign up to play with us on August the 28th. We're also looking for whole sponsors or those who want to donate a small prize for the raffles. All the information is at the website on the golf page of thoseradiokids.com. I'd love to see you then and there. Well, now on to today. Later in the show, our guest has an innovative online system to help patients complain or compliment their healthcare providers. So, whether you're a patient or a healthcare provider, share this service with your local doctor or hospital as a way to have a voice in real time and not on a patient survey sent to you weeks later. And I have an email to share with you this week about the games played with your medications. And my conclusion just might be a hard pill for you to swallow. So let's get to it. Sit back, relax, take a deep cleansing breath, turn off that darn cell phone that does nothing but microwave your brain, and enjoy this next bit of invigorating time with me. Now it's time for the healthcare hazard of the week. The hindsight triplets. Shoulda, Woulda, and Coulda. As I continually reflect on my mom's 4-month hospital experience, I always come away with these 3 characters: shoulda, woulda, and coulda. I should have done this. I could have asked that. What would have been different had I known this or that? And it all comes back to 2 missing pieces. One was knowledge or experience. The other was a voice. My voice, or lack of. Sometimes I didn't have enough knowledge about the situation. Not being a medical person, many times I simply didn't understand words, procedures, and the science behind the decisions. I didn't have healthcare experience, but more often than that, it was difficult to find and have a voice for the ever-present fear of being snubbed, scorned, impatiently scoffed at, or perhaps receiving worse treatment by the doctors and nurses for having questioned them. Now, I'm not shy about standing up for what I believe, think, and feel. And as a whole, during those months, I did a pretty good job of watching, listening, learning, and speaking up. However, there are still so many instances, as I look back, that might have altered the entire experience had I only done this, asked that, or, the triplets, shoulda, woulda, coulda. My mom was scheduled for replacement shoulder surgery after a fall at work. The surgery was scheduled for a Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock. As she laid in the pre-op holding room, all connected and wired for the upcoming IV bags, we sat and watched the clock tick. 1:30, 2, 2:30, 3, 3:15. Finally, a nurse wandered in and announced, "The shoulder surgeon doesn't feel well. Go home." Oh, did you just gasp to yourself? Yes, I know. We did too. I helped my mom get dressed, and as we were wheeling her out of the room, the elevator doors opened up And who bounced out, large cup of coffee in hand, slapping another doctor on the arm and laughing up a storm? Oh yeah, you guessed it, didn't you? It was the supposedly sick shoulder surgeon. Well, he attempted to avert my gaze, but I stopped him and asked, "When are we going to reschedule this surgery for my mom?" He spoke rapidly and answered, "Call my office and Susie Q, my assistant, will reschedule." He shoved his business card into my hand and kept walking. My first shoulda, woulda, coulda moment, wouldn't you say? I should have said, "Whoa, stop, and tell me why we are not going ahead with the surgery today. My mom is prepped and ready." I could have insisted upon a conversation right then and there. What would have happened differently had I found and used my voice? After 2 days of unanswered phone calls, Susie Q called on Wednesday evening to see if we could make it the next morning at 5:30 a.m. The next morning, my mom complained of not feeling well. At the hospital, prior to the surgery, she told the anesthesiologist that she felt badly. They took her blood pressure, which was 80/50. I watched the young intern give a nervous glance to the head anesthesiologist. She ignored his visual attempt to question the low reading. Eventually, the shoulder surgeon sauntered in and asked to see the pre-op EKG. Everyone scrambled around to locate it, but it was not there. Oh, the surgeon made a joke about the inefficient lab and how they didn't send the results to his office. However, I knew better, as I was with my mom when she had the pre-op EKG, and I gave the lab secretary the surgeon's business card with the fax number on it. I watched as she faxed the results, and I even viewed the confirmation report that showed that the results were successfully sent. My next shoulda, woulda, coulda moments. Again, I should have said, "Stop. My mom is repeatedly complaining about not feeling well. Her blood pressure is low. You don't have any of the pre-op results that you may need to use as a comparison should there be a problem." But I allowed my own self-doubt about my lack of medical knowledge to keep me silent. I lost my voice that was speaking inside of me that I shoulda and coulda used to perhaps avert the disaster waiting to happen. What would have happened differently had I used my voice? Well, the rest is history. Moments after the shoulder surgery, and if the actual truth be told, probably during the surgery, my mom was having a heart attack that went undiagnosed until 5 o'clock that afternoon. This missed diagnosis caused 4 months in intensive care, rehab, hospital readmission, rehab, and along with that came 100 more visits from the triplets, shoulda, woulda, and coulda moments. There was the uninvited podiatrist who showed up in the middle of the night and hacked off all of Mom's toenails, which I found early the next morning when her feet were bandaged with bloody gauze. Well, I did fly out of the room to the nurse's station to find out what happened, only to have them tell me, "Oh, we get complaints about him all of the time." If it were today, I would have insisted that the unknown foot hacker show up and speak to us personally about this ghoulish pedicure. Who authorized this? Who are you? What were you attempting to do to her feet? And, hey, buddy, you better not send a bill for this heartless attack. Or what about the drinking straw that accompanied all of her meals, despite the warning on her menu that ordered no drinking straw allowed due to her hospital-acquired swallowing disorder? What more could I have done to prevent that from repeatedly happening? And then there was the rehab facility check-in process, when none of Mom's medical records or charts preceded or accompanied her arrival, and no one knew what a complicated diagnostic mess they had on their hands. With some prior knowledge or experience, I would have known to ask ahead of time, does the rehab facility have Mom's records? If it were today, I would have asked and insisted that I carry those records with me in the ambulance ride from the hospital to the rehab. But I was ignorant and assumed that they would magically transfer and be read and studied prior to our arrival. Wrong. And then there were the aides and LPNs who ran the rehab because there were seldom any trained RNs available. The roving and disagreeing hospitalists who changed Mom's medications daily based on their own biases and preferences. The overly talkative nurse who overdosed Mom with epinephrine. The surgeon who punctured her lung while inserting pigtail drains. The ancient bedsore doctor from nowhere who showed off in front of a circle of interns and pulled bleach wipes from the container on the windowsill, and proceeded to clean my mom's stage 4 pressure sore with bleach. And these are just some of what I dare remember, lest I lose my sanity. And yes, I did speak up about all of these incidents, but I should have spoken sooner, louder, and stronger. So what do I learn as I look back? Hindsight is 20/20? Yes, but foresight is just plain smart. I learned that you never really know in the beginning what something might become. Preparation is your friend. And trust this, at some point in your life, you will be in a hospital, either as a patient or as an advocate for someone else. Unless, of course, you're a hermit and don't know anyone else. Know that there are hazards, not because doctors and nurses are bad people, but because sometimes the system is bad. Mistakes happen, people are human, and often the system is not set up to succeed 100% of the time. So I say that knowledge is important. And no, I'm not saying to go to med school. Simply be prepared, be on your toes, aware, ask questions, and seek help. Use this radio program to give you the incentive to know more about you, your symptoms, your diagnosis, your treatment, your medications. Dig inside, find your voice, pull it out and use it. Shoulda, woulda, and coulda are not friends. I know that. If something seems wrong, it probably is. Question it, question others, question everyone until you feel satisfied. Then proceed knowing that you did all you can to prevent the hindsight triplets, shoulda, woulda, and coulda. And with that, let's hear some legal news you can use. You've heard me talk about my attorney friends at Schraff & King, and I know many of you have taken my advice and contacted them to help you with your advance directives. Things like a healthcare power of attorney, living will, help with information about the Do Not Resuscitate form, and more. But today I want to share with you something that really underscores just why I suggest that you work with the folks at Schraff & King and why they are on this program. Schraff & King are one of only a few practices within the state of Ohio that actually have a certified elder law attorney within their group. Attorneys certified in elder law offer you something that other attorneys do not. So don't go anywhere else. Contact the folks at Schraff & King today. 440-585-1600. That's 440-585-1600. Or visit them online at schraffking.com. And be sure to let them know that you heard about them here on Speak Up and Stay Alive. Again, it's 440-585-1600. 440-585-1600. Call them today.
I'm here with disturbing news about our favorite gadgets, cell phones, tablets, Wi-Fi, etc. Putting it bluntly, they are damaging the living cells in our bodies and killing many of us prematurely. I'm Dr. Martin Blank from the Department of Physiology and Cellular Biophysics at Columbia University. It is distressing for me and more than 160 colleagues who today are petitioning the United Nations requesting that they address this problem. We are scientists and engineers, and I am here to tell you we have created something that is harming us, and it is getting out of control. Before Edison's light bulb, there was very little electromagnetic radiation in our environment. The levels today are very many times higher than natural background levels and are growing rapidly because of all the new devices that emit this radiation. An example that a lot of us have in our pockets right now is the cell phone. One study shows that as cell phone usage has spread widely, the incidence of fatal brain cancer in younger people has more than tripled. We are putting cellular antennas on residential buildings and on top of hospitals where people are trying to get well. Wireless utility meters and cell towers are blanketing our neighborhoods with radiation. It's particularly frightening that radiation from our telecommunication and power line technology is damaging the DNA in our cells. It is clear to many biologists that this can account for the rising cancer rates. Future generations, our children, are at risk. These biologists and scientists are not being heard on the committees that set safety standards. The biological facts are being ignored, and as a result, the safety limits are much too high. They are not protective. More protection will probably result from full disclosure of possible conflicts of interest between regulators and industry. Rising exposure to electromagnetic radiation is a global problem. The World Health Organization and international standard-setting bodies are not acting to protect the public's health and well-being. International exposure guidelines for electromagnetic fields must be strengthened to reflect the reality of their impact on our bodies, and in particular on our DNA. Although we are still in the midst of a great technological transformation, the time to deal with the harmful biological and health effects is long overdue. We are really all part of a large biological experiment without our informed consent. To protect our children, ourselves, and our ecosystem, we must reduce exposure by establishing more protective guidelines. And so today, scientists from around the world are submitting an appeal to the United Nations, its member states, and the World Health Organization to provide leadership in dealing with this emerging public health crisis.
As you just heard from quite the expert Dr. Martin Blank, a previous guest on this show, the radio frequencies emitted from cell phones, baby monitors, cordless phones, smart meters are known to cause health problems. Therefore, I suggest you do everything you can to avoid any prolonged contact with any device that emits this type of microwave radiation. Because radio frequencies are invisible, you must own a detection meter to measure the levels of radiation emitted not only from your or your neighbor's smart meter, but also from cell towers in your neighborhood, stealth cell antennas, hidden within flagpoles, in church steeples, gas station signs, wireless in libraries, stores, coffee shops, hotels, hospitals, and from cell phones and second-hand phone. I firmly believe that everyone should own a small handheld meter that can detect these dangerous frequencies. So with that, I've done the research for you and now offer EMF meters, RF meters, and other detection, measurement, and shielding devices through a company called Safe Living Technologies. They have an extensive selection of useful items that range from entry level to professional level, and I personally own what I'm asking you to own. You can find them at our website, speakupandstayalive.com, speakupandstayalive.com, and go to the link that says Stop Smart Meters. There you will see a picture of a reasonably priced meter. I think it's about $140 or less, and there's no tax. Plus, I offer a free gift with every purchase, a free copy of my book, and a free patient experience CD. You simply cannot prevent that which you don't measure. So here's a way to basically make the invisible visible. Just like your body, your organs, and ultimately your health cannot survive in a smoke-filled room, neither can you survive in an environment filled with electrosmog. So get yourself a meter, buy them as gifts. They are soon to become a mainstream necessity in order to survive in this world filled with unprecedented levels of life-diminishing man-made frequencies. Go to speakupandstayalive.com and visit the Stop Smart Meter page. I wouldn't waste your time or mine talking about this if it was not important to your health and your future. You are listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive Patient Safety Radio and Patient Experience Radio, and I am your hostess, Pat Rulo, always looking for that special guest who offers innovative ways to improve the patient experience. And while doing some research recently for an upcoming segment regarding effective ways for patients to deliver feedback to their healthcare providers, I came across an organization that offers real-time feedback. Now, often I hear from patients and family members who are frustrated when they feel that they have no voice and no choice when it comes to sharing their concerns, their complaints, or compliments. And by the time they receive the patient satisfaction survey in the mail, they either set it aside and never fill it out, or feel boxed in by having to answer questions that do not address their concerns. So it is with great pleasure that I offer an alternative both to patients and providers. And with me today to share the good news is Farhad Safaie. He is the founder and managing director of Benchmarking Group International, Incorporated. He has more than 30 years of experience in total quality management and continuous improvement in various private and public organizations. His interest in helping organizations to focus on their customers through metrics and benchmarks resulted in the development of a proprietary methodology embodied in the patient angle, a family of technology solutions. And these solutions bring complete transparency, accountability, and focus on patient satisfaction. He is an adjunct faculty at George Mason University and holds a Master of Science degree in Structural Engineering from University of California in Berkeley. And it is such a pleasure to have you with us. Welcome to the show, Farhad.
Thank you very much, Pat. It's a great pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. Well, now, you and I spoke on the phone last week, and we talked about the need for consumers, whether healthcare patients or restaurant diners, to have an immediate way to voice their thoughts. Now, many turn to the internet and post comments on Yelp or Google Places, and often only negativity is posted. And then this is done after the fact when it's too late for the offending service provider to make a change. So tell us, if you will, why is it imperative to establish a dialogue in real time, and how does your feedback services, especially as it relates to healthcare, how can that help?
Pat, as you mentioned, we talked about this last week, and the fact is that in many cases, the patient's feedback or consumer feedback in general, it is very difficult to voice our views as consumers and patients easily. Typically, with more progressive organizations and healthcare providers, they may have access or they may provide you with surveys. These surveys typically are going to take 5 to 10 minutes of your time, sometimes even more, and it is a significant commitment to go through that effort to provide feedback to a practice, while you really wanted in general to talk about one or two things that were important from your perspective as you interacted with that healthcare provider. The way our patented methodology works is that the patients can provide feedback on any aspect of the organization in terms of the services provided, in terms of the staff, and the feedback, patient feedback, is immediately delivered to the staff and management in the practice that are responsible for that particular touch point with the patient. And as such, this real-time aspect of delivery of feedback enables the staff and management to carry on a dialogue with the patient, and in many cases be able to address the issues that are raised immediately. I also want to emphasize that there are times that we get really delighted by the service, and we wished there was a quick way for us to communicate that satisfaction with the management in that organization, and particularly to recognize a particular service provider that we interacted with. And that is another angle or aspect of the solution that can be positive reinforcement to the staff, while it also provides key opportunity areas in the practice that can improve in terms of service delivery.
That is so true. And you said something important, that the feedback is not always negative. A lot of times you have something positive to say, but then where do you share that feedback? And when people put feedback on the internet, it's hard to monitor that. Then no one can take action because it's too late. It's out there for everyone to see. So I think it's imperative that, especially a healthcare organization, to be in control when it comes to managing the patient experience.
Absolutely, and it's really tremendously damaging to a practice when those comments are out there. There was actually a study that was carried out by the Harvard Business School, and they looked at the impact of one Yelp rating increase on the revenues. And their particular study was focusing on restaurants in the Seattle area. But the findings were really interesting that at that time they found that there is 5 to 9% impact on the revenues with one Yelp star improvement. Over the last several years, the relevance of social media has even increased, and more consumers make their buying decisions by reviewing the reviews that are available online on various service providers and businesses in general.
I know. I found that number fascinating. And if you think about hospitals versus restaurants, the amount of revenue difference that we're talking about, I mean, a 5 to 9% difference on a hospital that's making millions of dollars versus a restaurant, I mean, that's a huge amount of money. So now, what is the mechanism? So I'm a patient lying in bed and I have some feedback. Is this done on a piece of technology? How does that exactly work?
So the process from the patient is actually very easy. By that, I mean there is a very simple URL. Let's say that, hey, Hospital A. That's the URL. Or it can be anything that patients can remember about that service provider. And they can type that on any device, mobile device or otherwise. And in many cases, the service providers and practices would like to have that on site. Let's say on an iPad that is installed in the checkout area. Basically, it's a series of icons on this tablet, or if they bring up the website on their mobile device, there are a number of icons, very simple icons from the patient's perspective to understand what aspect of the practice they are commenting on. If it was the process of making an appointment or the exam room or whatever aspect of it is. And more specifically, even in each of those areas, if they have a specific feedback and comment about one of the service providers, they can even be that specific. And they get to a page, there is only one question and one rating that they provide. And basically that's it. The whole process should take less than a minute. And that feedback is very specifically now targeted and labeled in the system for that specific service provider. And that service provider and his or her boss and his or her boss's boss would see what kind of comments have been received. And furthermore, the system provides a dialogue both with the patient so that if there are issues that are observed, there can be an email exchange with the patient to inform them of the steps that were taken, or can be a phone call. And all of that is also recorded in the system so that the management at any level can look at the trends in their patient feedback, but also are able to drill down to the very specific service provider and at a particular location or a particular department or ward in the hospital that they can see the specific feedback for that person or that service.
So you can really, as you say, you can drill down and really find the weak spot or the strong spot within any organization based on the feedback.
Precisely. That's a very astute observation. It is all run on the secure cloud.
Okay.
And so the healthcare providers don't need to acquire servers and hardware and infrastructure to install in their organization.
Right. So everybody's up and running and ready to go already. They just need to get in touch with you. Now, this is not to take the place of the patient satisfaction surveys that are sent to the homes.
It's an interesting question, Pat, and I know there are a number of mandatory surveys that various organizations have to go through as it imposed by insurance companies or government agencies.
Right.
This will not replace that mandate. But frankly, I would imagine that over the years, in the future, the approach that we just outlined would be more frequently used for capturing patients' feedback rather than the current traditional surveys.
I'm thinking of this in terms of, say, myself as a patient or a family member, and if I had the opportunity to give some real-time feedback right at the point of service or disservice, and then when I got that patient satisfaction survey score later on, which is tied to reimbursement with the hospital, so they clearly want to get a positive rating, if I had that opportunity ahead of time to air and vent my thoughts, by the time I got the patient satisfaction survey score, I would probably tend to rate it higher because I would be done venting and I would have said everything already. So I would imagine this could actually enhance the possibility of better patient satisfaction surveys.
Very interesting point. Imagine now if between when the patient provided the feedback on the spot and sent that in, and the time that they actually received the long survey, what if in that period, someone from the practice or the hospital contacted the patient and indicated that they really appreciated the feedback, and if it's a negative feedback, what steps are being taken to address this situation, and essentially close the loop with the patient. Now, what do you think would be the impact of that when they actually go through and they record the level of satisfaction with the services provided?
Absolutely. You are offering a no surprise service here.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow, I love this. Yeah, well, to kind of tie this up into a little box here, let's give us 3 positive outcomes for the patient and 3 positive outcomes for the provider.
Okay, so from the patient's perspective, it's easy, it is simple, it is kind of fun, and it takes less than a minute. And I know that my feedback is put in the hands of people who can do something about it. So another aspect of the solution that is quite interesting, in many cases, the patients are non-English speaking folks. This product is extremely easy to have it in as many languages as the languages of patients that you serve. From the practice's perspective inside the organization, it's real time. It is all the way up in the line of command, if you will, or the line of responsibilities. There is a tremendous transparency that is brought into the area of customer satisfaction. Organizations now have a very solid metric when there is time for semi-annual or annual review of the employees, and all of the achievements or issues that they had to deal with, they're all documented right in front of you.
I love it. I was so excited when I found you, and I'm getting more excited as we talk. I'm sure folks are going to want to know where they can find out more information. So if you'd like to share websites, contact information, go ahead.
Absolutely. Probably the best place to go is our website, which is Bench Group Int. That's abbreviation for Benchmarking Group International. So it's benchgroupint.com.
Great. You'll have a page on our patient experience, RadiOh.com and speakupandstayalive.com. So if folks want to go there and hear this interview and share it and find more information, get your website, they can go to those places too. In summing up, I saw on your website, and I'm going to steal it from you right here, you say when your staff takes corrective actions to address a patient complaint, it not only reduces the possibility of the patient switching service providers, but also the possibility of a bad review on one or more social media. These corrective actions create a continuous improvement cycle in your practice, which will result in happy customers and happy staff, not to mention increased revenue, and then you've got a nice little smiley face after that. And so I think everyone will have a smiley face when given the opportunity and the tools to communicate effectively in real time. So I encourage folks to visit Bench Group Int, benchgroupint.com. Wow, what a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you so much for what you do and for sharing it with us today.
Thank you so much, Pat. It was a lot of fun.
It was, and we'll have to do more. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
It's summer, and that can only mean one thing. It's time to have some fun with your friends, your family, and there's only one place to do that: Pioneer Waterland and Dry Fun Park, 10661 Kyle Road in Chardon, Ohio, 440-285-0910, or visit the website pioneerwaterland.com. See you there. Well, now, to lighten the mood, today we opened the game chamber and everyone decided to play one of our most fave games, Are You in Jeopardy or Are You Safe? So here's how it goes. I will describe a healthcare or hospital-associated scene, and you, our contestants, have to decide how you would react to that situation. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe? Today we have two contestants.
Now entering the studio are today's contestants.
Your name is?
I'm Bob from Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and I'm a former financial planner.
I'm Eric. I'm a regionally famous radio producer from Northeast Ohio.
Regionally famous. This is very good. And we have you, our dedicated to patient safety listeners from all over the globe.
These people will compete today on
Are You in Jeopardy or Are You Safe? All right, guys, are you ready to go?
Let's go for it.
Let's do it.
Okay, here's the first scenario. You are a patient in the hospital and your nurse walks in with a paper cup filled with assorted medications. You ask what they are. Oh, just your usual. Here's some water, the nurse replies. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe? What do you guys think?
I'm saying you're in jeopardy. I would want my medication already wrapped where I could pop it out myself to see what it is.
Okay, that's what Bob thinks. What do you think, Eric?
Sounds like a dangerous cocktail.
It does sound like a dangerous cocktail. You both are right. I think it's safe to say that you would be in jeopardy. Ask for the Daily Mars, M-A-R-S. Yep, like the planet. It is the medication administration record sheet that is generated each day for your nurse to use so she knows or he knows what medications to give you. When you have a copy of this, now you are able to know exactly what you should take, what they look like, and so on. It's about being informed and engaged. Good job, guys.
Oh, good. Let's go for another one.
All right, here's scenario number 2. Everyone who enters your hospital room places their stuff on your tray table. Bandages, the blood-drawing bucket, visitors' purses, your meal tray. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe? What say you, Eric?
I don't want all that stuff where my food is going to be.
I agree with you. What do you think, Bob?
I sort of think you're in jeopardy. That's an area that needs to be just strictly for the patient, not for everybody else.
I agree. I think you're both right. That tray table is a handy shelf, isn't it? But think about the amount of cross-contamination that takes place. Use the canister of disinfecting wipes that should be in your room, or bring your own, and frequently wipe that table, leaving it wet for as long as possible. Then toss those wipes in the trash. Don't reuse them, and rewash or sanitize your hands. You guys did good.
Oh, that was a good question.
All right, here's scenario number 3. Your doctor enters the exam room, washes his or her hands, puts on a clean pair of gloves, examines you, removes the gloves, and rewashes hands. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe?
Personally, I'm going to say you're safe.
My instinct says that I'm safe, but I'm scared this might be a trick question.
He knows me too well. Actually, you're right. Your instinct is right. You are safe. I mean, there's obviously other things that could go wrong, but that is a safe practice, yeah? It's a far cry from many doctors who enter the room by way of the doorknob and immediately extend a hand to shake yours. In fact, I just received an email from a woman who said her doctor handled the bottom of her shoes to test for something or other, then proceeded to examine her neck. She nicely called him out on it, and then he profusely apologized, saying that he should have known better. So it's not weird or rude to ask your provider to wash their hands before touching you.
Yep, he doesn't know where those shoes have been.
No, he doesn't.
You've got it.
You guys are good. All right, here's scenario number 4. Your friends visit you in the hospital and always eat your hospital food because you don't like what they serve. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe?
I remember you addressing this on a previous show. You're supposed to keep that food for yourself. I forget what the reasoning was.
All right, I'll tell you in a minute.
I'll tell you the reason on that, Eric. I believe it's because if they're monitoring your food intake, then they need to know how much you actually ate. Make sure you don't get dehydrated.
You guys don't need me at all. I should just leave.
Good question.
Good answers. Yep. Here's the thing. Many times the nutrition staff monitors what remains on the food tray as a way to keep your nutritional needs in check. And Bob, you said it, malnutrition and dehydration during a hospital stay are very real hazards. So it's a good idea to simply leave behind what you choose not to eat and don't let visitors eat your food. You could become malnourished and the staff will have no clue. All right, here's our final scenario, number 5. You are a visitor in a hospital. Upon returning home, you remove your clothes and shoes and wash your clothes in a hot water and a hot dryer. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe? What do you think, Eric?
Again, I want to say safe, but very cautious.
A cautious safe.
Truthfully, you're as safe as you can be, but you don't know if the hot water gets all the germs out, but I would say safe.
Okay, I think you're both right. It's a safe practice. Germs and bacteria live in the hospital and can live on fabric for long periods of time. So there's no point in taking chances of bringing them back home with you. So before you plop down on your favorite sofa with contaminated clothing, we say get undressed at the back door, run naked through the house, and delight or terrorize your family members in the name of safety.
Thank you. That's a good visual.
Well, now that we're all naked and decontaminated, I'm not sure who won that, but what do you guys think?
I think it was 5 good questions.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think you're both winners. What do you think, Eric?
I don't know that the visual I just had in my mind was not a prize I really wanted to take away from this, but otherwise I'd say yes, we were both winners.
Yay. Radio visuals are always good. Well, thank you, Bob, and thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
All right. I hope you guys come back, and thank you, Don Pardo, and thank you, friends, for playing our newest and most fun game ever. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe? Don't go anywhere. There's so much more you can learn about healthcare and hospital safety on America's favorite and perhaps the only patient safety radio show. Speak Up and Stay Alive, Radio. Well, this last week I received many emails from you, from listeners around the world, actually, with some thoughts that they wanted to share with me. And I'm picking one out today that I want to share with you because I think it has a lot of value and merit to it. It says, "Hello, Pat. My husband and I listen to your program every Saturday morning and have certainly learned many interesting and sometimes scary facts. I thought I would share one with you. My girlfriend Susie, who is deceased at age 55, worked at an urgent care center, and here is her story. Susie began having migraine headaches and asked the doctor what she should do. He said, 'Don't worry, we have something for that,' and he gave her his magic pills. She took them as directed, and within a few days she found that not only was her migraine still pounding away, but she was having trouble with her digestion and could not eliminate without a laxative. She went back to the doctor, who said, 'Don't worry, we have something for that,' and he gave her more drugs. That, of course, she took immediately, and within a few days she noticed she was having heart palpitations. She ran back to the doctor, who said, 'Don't worry, we have something for that.' Now, she continued having the original complaint, migraines, was now using laxatives and taking some medication for high blood pressure that the doctor claimed was the reason for the heart palpitations. I could continue, but the bottom line, her medicine cabinet was full of chasers, one for the presenting problem and the rest to chase the next symptoms due to the medications. It was horrible. By the time she figured out that they were clueless, her health had become critical. I also must tell you that she confided a horrific scenario dealing with the pharmaceutical companies. Working as she did at the urgent care center, the pharmaceutical company would come several times a month with their newest drugs. They would ask doctors to give out these new magic pills for free and monitor those who took them. For instance, if someone came in with stomach problems, they were to be given these pills on a trial basis, and the unsuspecting person would be called to see how they were doing. She said once they gave out their magic pills for flu symptoms. The pills were to stop the shivering and aching. Well, the pills had no effect on those particular symptoms, but helped with the fevers. When the pharmaceutical company came back, lo and behold, these same pills were now given a name and marketed for fevers. In other words, after the guinea pig tested the product, then they named it and decided what it was for. I have learned the hard way that our bodies were designed for the correct fuel, and if we neglect them, we too will chase symptoms without getting to the root of the problem. Thanks for all you share. Wanted to also share with you. Well, I appreciated that note, as it speaks to the fact that America is the most medicated nation on earth, with some 70% of Americans taking prescription drugs. Yet, we have worse health outcomes than other industrialized countries. And part of the problem may be the drugs themselves. Why? Well, one reason, so-called prestigious medical journals publish research based on falsified studies. And who knows what is actually true or what is mumbo, just to sell drugs. Even doctors can't decipher the fact from fiction. In fact, the heavy influence of pharmaceutical dollars inspired the former editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine, Dr. Marcia Angel, to conclude, and I quote, "It is simply no longer possible to believe much of the clinical research that is published, or to rely on the judgment of trusted physicians or authoritative medical guidelines." Unquote. So that's just not me talking. Another reason why? Just turn on the TV. Every year, pharmaceutical companies spend over $3 billion on direct-to-consumer ads. And these ads work. A patient who requests a specific drug will get it most of the time. Another reason? Money. Consider the 2004 cholesterol guidelines that resulted in an explosion in the use of statin drugs. 8 out of 9 of the doctors who wrote those guidelines were in receipt of money from statin manufacturers. Oh, and then there's the FDA, one of my favorites. The FDA approval means little about the patient safety of prescribed drugs. When a medication is recalled, a lot of individuals have already been killed or hurt. Drugs such as Vioxx, a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, which was initially authorized to help ease the pain of arthritis, but lately determined to cause serious heart problems. Then there's Bextra, approved by the FDA in 2001, but removed from the markets in 2005 by the FDA, given that it exhibited a 300% increase in the potential for considerable cardiovascular events. Then there's Resulin, originally advertised following FDA approval to treat type 2 diabetes, yet it was removed from the market because of liver failure and death resulting from liver toxicity, and I can go on and on. According to Dr. Peter Gotschke, the director of the Nordic Cochrane Center in Copenhagen, he says, "Our prescription drugs are the third leading cause of death after heart disease and cancer. Our drugs kill around 200,000 people in America every year, and half of these people die while they do what their doctors told them. So they die because of the side effects. And the other half die because of errors. And it's often the doctors that make the errors because any drug may come with 20, 30, or even 40 warnings, contraindications, precautions, and then the patients die." Unquote. So back to today's email that started this conversation. I think all of us need to ask more questions and be more cautious when prescribed medications, and consider the valuable point brought up about chasers. Those medications that chase the drug side effects. Because the companies that make our medicine don't do it for public health. They do it for profit. And the sooner you can swallow that pill, the safer you'll be.
Repeat, this is not a drill.
And if you have something to share with me, feel free to send an email and I might read and muse upon it too. Send it to pat@speakupandstayalive.com. That's pat@speakupandstayalive.com. Well, it's nearing the end of our time together today, but if you want more, invite me to speak to your organization, your church, business, or hospital. Obviously, we have a wide variety of topics, and if you know me, I keep things moving fast and jam-packed with seriously usable information. And meantime, get a copy of my book, Speak Up and Stay Alive, The Patient Advocate Hospital Survival Guide. It's an easy read, yet each page holds some secret wisdom that just might save your life or the life of a loved one. Or heck, don't even read it. Just bring it to the hospital with you or bring it as a gift to a patient in the hospital. Lay it on the tray table as a visual cue, a sign to every doctor or nurse who enters your room that you are concerned about getting out alive. The cover is a great conversation starter, and that is precisely what you want to do. Start a conversation right out of the gate about why hand washing is important, why medication vigilance is on your mind, and now you'll stand out in a positive way as a patient not to be messed with. You can order online on the shop page of the speakupandstayalive.com website. That's speakupandstayalive.com. Or call me and order by phone. 440-725-5462. That's 440-725-5462. And be sure to come back next week as I have a returning guest to talk about your health from an energetic perspective. Everything is energy, and we either have resonance or dissonance. Imbalance and stress in all forms is the common denominator for illness. Prevention is the goal, and we'll learn how to do body dowsing. I'll explain next week. And we'll have a chat about the pH levels of our body and why that's important, all with Werner Brandmeier, who previously shared his wisdom about geopathic stress. He's my new best friend, so be sure to be here. Same time, same place, but never the same information. Until then, I hope you have a healthy and a happy week, free from the hindsight triplets and bad medication. I am Pat Rouleau, and I am your guide to safe and successful healthcare and hospital encounters.
Listen to Pat Rouleau and Speak Up and Stay Alive RadiOh. Stay safe from little-known healthcare and hospital hazards. To learn more, go to speakupandstayalive.com. That's speakupandstayalive.com.